Make sense? Okay. So we also use McLaren's Global. They're a third party who specializes in claims handling on a nationwide basis. We use A-rated or better global carriers like Lloyd's and Allianz, Fireman's Fund, Berkshire Hathaway. So a lot of times, because of our size, because we're such a large independent insurance agency, people think that we're the insurance company, but we're not. We're just an independent insurance agency, and we contract business with these large global carriers. Okay? And then we have this third-party claims administrator, McLaren's Global, to act as a mediator between our claims department and you and the carriers to help this process go very smoothly. We talked about the location, being on a single location schedule, and we have no restrictions as far as working with IRAs, and trusts, and multiple LLCs, and S Corp, C Corp, whatever it is. You enter into these partnerships where you have all these different entities and individuals and all these different things involved. A lot of insurance companies freak out. You know, we know that that's part of the nature of the business, so our program is designed to handle all those things. Okay, and I think that's pretty much it with that. This is, I need to update this, but we're up to over 43,000 locations just on our rental properties. Doesn't include our apartments, our notes, our rehab projects. We have over 8,000 individual investors, and we do have a little over 40 people dedicated in Kansas City in our offices there to meet your needs. And there's my contact information. Ivan at nreinsurance.com. Our website is nreinsurance.com. I have a bunch of cards back there too. Make sure you grab one from me. And if you have any questions regarding this or what Dan's doing, rental property, anything else, that would be the time.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, do you want to talk a little bit about some of the projects that you're doing and the areas that you covered?
If you want to.
Yeah, I'd like to, because you got, you're here till 4, right? So.
Yeah, I mean, I'll zip through this kind of quickly because I want to make sure that people don't knock off. I mean, I'm not the most boring guy to listen to. It's still.
Okay, here. Is it a myth there's only 13 myths?
That is a myth. So we'll add number 14 then. No, but those are really the most prevalent things, right? That apply to not only the industry and what the deficits in the industry are from an insurance standpoint. It also helps illuminate the ways that we've come with a program to address these issues. Yes.
Just for an example, I was talking to Dan earlier, and he has a training program. We don't get paid, but we go out and we can find the houses and we go with our trainer and everything like
Sure.
that. When we were talking about the vehicle stuff, just as an example, I'm going out, I'm going to go look at this house, I'm doing it for this program, and I get hit. Or so I get the fender bender or something like that. Is this where I should have this kind of insurance, or he should have this kind of insurance, or is this, are we way overthinking this?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, you're not in risk there yet. And one, you're not his employee, so he wouldn't need to have a commercial policy covering your non-owned auto exposure, or his non-owned auto exposure for you. And you're not driving to a location that you actually own or that you're servicing. So you're just going around and driving around. Just like when you all came here, that's not considered business use or activity. This is all just education.
The reason I ask is that there's a clause in my auto policy that states you will not be a courier, you will not transport people, you won't. And having worked in LA when I was a gopher,
Yeah.
I was a PA and I was running scripts all over town.
Yeah.
I was bringing coffee back from
That's commercial
Starbucks.
liability under
Yeah.
your employer's non-owned auto.
Oh, they didn't say a word. I mean, if you're a PA, you go do what you're supposed to do, you're gonna use your car, and we're not even gonna talk insurance about it. So Hollywood was a very, very, I mean, Los Angeles is a completely different animal.
Sure.
And so I was just kind of.
The law is the law. If something did happen, you'd have a claim.
Yeah.
They might deny it, but you could fight it. The other thing, of course, if you're a realtor, then that's a whole different story, right? Because you are transporting people. That's part of your job. But there's riders for that, and most carriers will add a rider if you're a realtor that allow you to do that sort of thing.
So as we get our business started and we start moving into this, if we have your card, we can just call you up and say,
Sure.
you know, this is Scott, it's on with this, I'd like to talk to you about getting a policy for a short term on a house that I just got.
Sure.
Great.
Yeah, very, very easy.
Okay.
Yes.
So I wanted to rewind back to that contractor example you had of how he got the policy 2 days or was, taking forever. So how did you deal with that? Like, are you able to call, like, within week by week and just check on it?
Sure you can.
So I can.
Yeah. Yeah, now, when you are added as the certificate holder or additional insured, you should receive a copy. Okay, if there's a cancellation down the road, you should receive notice of that. When the policy renews, you should receive notice of that, as long as you remain as one of the certificate holders or additional insureds, right? The problem is that if they do cancel, how long is it gonna take? How long is it gonna take for them to actually send you that notice before you know, and then claim happens, it's been 30 days that it took you to get that notice for you to call. So yeah, but on that certificate, you're always gonna see the issuing agency. You can call the agency. They can't give you any pertinent information, of course, but you can just say who you are, and I just want to confirm that this policy is enforced. Yes, Dan?
You mentioned insurance companies in some place like Florida having to go out of business because of a lot of, hurricanes or whatever. How do you guys, as your company, are able to, deal with those situations without you guys being out of business?
Sure. And again, because we're not the insurance company, so you got to look at who's actually backing these policies. People like Lloyd's of London. You look at the AM Best ratings, and all the carriers that we use are either rated A or A+, and then they have a financial rating. The largest financial rating that they give is that they give a number to it, meaning 15, which means that their assets are in excess of $2 billion. That's their ability to pay claims. So you look at the insurance companies. These companies have all been around for more than 130 years. They've always been solvent. That's what you look at. It's not us, because that's the question that comes up. Well, who are you guys? That's fine that you're a fourth generation insurance agency, but how do I know? Well, no, you're looking at walking around. Yeah, so firemen, or Lloyd's, Oberon, Certified Hathaway, they all have that financial strength. So you look at companies that have maybe a financial rating of like 7 or 8, or those are the companies that you stay away from.
Okay, and I've heard that if a rental property burns down, a lot of times you just have to go out and get an insurance type person or lawyer to try to get your insurance company to pay for what they're supposed to be responsible for paying for. That effort wouldn't be directed at you, it would probably be directed back to Lloyd's of London or something?
Sure, to the insurance company, but
Okay.
when you have a claim, you should never, the practice should never be that you have to go get an attorney or somebody. No, you file the claim, then you have we have, of course, our own claims department there in the office, and then we use McLaren Global to help facilitate many of the claims. But it's just, here's the contract, here's what's covered, here are the damages, and they appraise it, and they cut a check. I mean, it should be, it's not always as cut and dry like that, of course, it's not always, but it should usually be a pretty simple process.
Does depreciation ever factor in there? I mean, a house that was built in 20 or like 1930 or something, and something happens to that, because I had a situation like that, and I mean, it was $26,000 worth of damage, went through the insurance company, everything like that. After they depreciated everything, they were gonna write me a check for $36.
Okay, well, so you had ACV, or actual cash value loss settlement provision.
Yeah, I didn't even know that. I didn't even know. So I said, the check.
Keep the check.
Because there was gonna be a black market then, right? Then I filed a claim.
So,
And that was a rental.
I started rehabbing properties in Southern California. And there's some of you that haven't done your first flip yet, right? So this might be a little kind of a cool little story, just as an experience thing. So I came out of my education, and one of the things that they teach at these seminars, of course, is about hard money, right? Because that's the whole thing. You don't need your own credit, you don't need your own money, you don't need, that's how they get people in. And the fact of the matter is that you need a few things to be successful as a real estate investor. You do need money. Of course, it doesn't have to be your own. You do need credit to some degree. Of course, that doesn't have to be your own either. But if you want to grow a business over time, building your own credit is going to be a good idea too. You need resources for that. You need education, right? That's the number one thing. You need time. And especially people who are cash poor, they need to be a lot more time rich, because that's what you can invest in initially, is in the time and in your education. So through that education, my whole, because I get a lot of people that ask me, well, how did you get started? How did you first do your first deal? And that's what I tell people. I focus on the education piece. All right, first, I decided that this was going to be for me. This was going to be what got me out of my current situation. I was in the insurance business. I was in a situation after a while that was not healthy, that I wanted out, but I didn't want to go from insurance at this agency to insurance, especially after I realized, okay, I want to become a real estate investor. So I learned and decided to know what it took. How is the process supposed to work from start to finish? Because why is anybody going to give me money? Just like Dan said earlier. Why would anybody give me money if I can't even explain to them how the process is supposed to work? So I learned that first. And then, of course, I had the passion. Right? Because we're always selling. Okay? We're all salespeople. Whether you like the term or not, we're all salespeople. And when it comes down to it, sales is nothing more than a transfer of enthusiasm, ultimately. Right? That's one of the key factors. Right? If you're not enthusiastic about what you're talking about, there's a couple of problems, right? One is because you don't really believe in what it is you're talking about, or you don't understand it. And then that confidence doesn't come through, and so once you transfer that enthusiasm to somebody, that's when a sale is made, because their confidence level increases. Their level of belief is lower than yours as far as like who's trying to sell who, right? So once that happens, the sale happens. So that's what I decided I wanted to do. And then I also decided after researching about 100 hard money lenders that I didn't want to do business their way. And I was going to make it my goal to raise private money. So here I am, never having done a deal in my life, expecting people to give me hundreds of thousands of dollars. My level of enthusiasm, though, matched what I knew, right, from an education standpoint. I'd never done a deal. And then I started networking. And then I started using relationship leverage. Because maybe I had never done a deal, but I was connected with many people that had done many deals. And people love stories, right? The whole experience. Once you start talking to people and asking them questions of what's happened to you, and you want to get around people who are not afraid to talk about their failures. Because if you haven't lost money in this business, or if somebody tells you they haven't lost money in this business, they're either lying or they haven't been in the business long enough. Or they're already out of the business altogether because they lost everything and they didn't have the guts to come pull it back around. Okay. I lost over $400,000 in Indianapolis, and it wiped me out. And there was embezzlement, there's crooks out there, there's a lot of things that you run into in this business that, if I had connected with other people, I would have made different choices, but I learned my lessons. And long story short, I guess, is I was able to raise private money to start doing my deals. So I started here in Southern California, and then I went to Indianapolis because I figured I can buy properties for a lot cheaper out there than I could. And then I started kind of seeing the writing on the wall, saying, well, flipping houses the way we've known it isn't going to stay like this forever. The inventory is getting lower, the prices are going up, everything's happening. And that's around the time when I decided, I want to switch models. I want to get into cash flow. I believe cash flow is the future. I think a lot of you in here would agree with me. Cash flow is the future, not necessarily flipping houses. So now I guess I still do flip houses, but I call them rental flips or turnkey flips, because now I'm finding properties, renovating them, leasing them out, putting professional management in place, and then ultimately selling them to a cash flow investor or a passive investor. And so there are different ways that we can talk about how those things progress and all the different things that I tried. I did a lot of owner financing, and I got burned with a partner there after investing in me. So there's all these things that happen to people when you try to do the right thing. You're always the one trying to do the right thing. Unfortunately, sometimes people take advantage of you, right? So what I would say is try to pick a niche, try to pick a direction, and follow through with it until you're successful with it. Because there's so many different things, and you might have heard the term, the whole shiny coin syndrome or shiny object syndrome, because you start going all these different directions. Well, this didn't work yet. You start trying to learn how to flip houses, and 6 months go by, or 8 months go by, or a year goes by, or 18 months go by, and you still haven't done your first deal. And you gotta ask yourself, well, is it because I haven't done the right thing and then you quit, or is it maybe you should switch at that point? The point here is that you gotta give everything a chance. You can't expect, like Dan said, you can't expect to become successful in a month or 2 months or 3 months. This is kind of like a long-term play. And you don't quit your job right away, but you gotta be in it for the long haul, just like the appreciation game, right? When you buy properties, I always tell people, I do a whole different presentation, and when you're buying rental properties, you gotta buy based off the cash flow. Okay, that's I think one mistake people make is they bank on appreciation, and appreciation is a short-term play, right? So they get into it short-term, and then in most cases they get burned because they get in it at the wrong time, just like the stock market, right?
Yeah.
It's like when the stock market's going up, everybody like scrambles to try to get in, and then it drops, and then they lose everything just because their timing is wrong, right? So oftentimes you got to go against the flow. But you buy, and eventually you will benefit from appreciation as long as you're into it for the long term. And the way I prove this to people is I ask, now, how would you like to buy your parents' home for what they paid for it originally today?
Yeah.
Everybody says yes, right? But that's the long play. Eventually, we will all benefit from that in real estate. That's one of the best ways to build that wealth long term. So that's what I do now. I switched almost exclusively to we wholesale some deals out there, and then we do rental properties out there, and we just created and are launching a fund for a different reason. We're giving our investors a different way to invest because there's a lot of guys out there, a lot of people out there who feel more secure investing in a passive fund that's secured with equitable real estate than doing like a trust deed investment on one property. And we have a lot of, and that's how our whole business is run. I'm sure yours too, Dan. All trust deed investors on flips, and even on the rental properties we do, we buy those and fix them up with a trust deed investor, and then we sell it to an end user and give the investor the return. And that's a great model for any of you who are starting out to kind of understand how the figures work, how those numbers work, how to analyze those deals. And that's the first thing you got to understand is how do these numbers break down? And what can you offer the investor or anybody else that's partnering with you? You got to remember, everybody's favorite radio station is WIIFM. What's in it for me? Right? So they're all tuned into that. So if you can become a master of presenting something in a way that's of benefit to somebody else, but that also creates a win for you, that's how you'll get deals done. And so in the beginning when I was flipping houses, I would give my investors 50% equity share. So, but there's a fine line to that, right? Because 50% might sound like a really good deal to an investor, unless 50% equals a 6% return on their money. Now it's not a very good deal for that investor, right? So you have to figure out, okay, if this 50% now makes you seem generous, because all they're doing is putting in the money and signing a couple documents, but they're gonna want 15, 20, 22% returns on that risk. Now what we do is two options, especially because we're dealing with a lot less money too. In those days, we're dealing with individual private investors that are giving me anywhere between $180,000 to $350,000 to do a flip here in California. Now, typically the all-in investment is anywhere between $40,000 to, well, even lower than that, $30,000 to $50,000. And now we give 15% APR or 10% cash on cash. And most people are pretty comfortable with that, especially because the investment is so much lower. And Dan structures things in a very creative way also, where they're receiving longer term passive income as well, not just a short term investment. And so with this fund, a lot of people here talk about syndicating funds and raising money properly, and you gotta be really careful that you listen to, if you go to the REI Expo or many of these expos, you'll hear Jillian Sidoti. If you don't know who she is, she travels around quite a bit, and she's one of the leading experts in raising capital for your real estate projects and doing it legally, because most of us do it wrong. Okay, there's a little thing called open solicitation that everybody is doing out there, and some of them are getting hurt, most of them are not, but they can. where you really can't raise money from a private investor unless you have an intimate knowledge of their ability to invest. So if it's somebody on social media,
3 meetings, right?
and yeah, and at least three meetings, and so you have to have this knowledge of them. Instead of putting something out on Facebook or something, hey, I have this deal, I'll pay you 18%, you can get fined for that. And if you have somebody who's a competing investor, for example, or you have some bad blood with somebody and they see you doing something like that, they can report you. So there's a lot of risks with trying to raise money like that. You gotta go to meetings like this, you gotta have it, just tap into your networks initially. So what I did was, I had a guy, my first and largest investor, as an anesthesiologist, and he just so happened to be a previous insurance client who owned, at the time, about 8 rental properties here in California. So I knew that he had some money, and I knew that he had an interest and a kind of a knowledge of real estate. So I set up a meeting with him, but because I had that intimate knowledge with him, he gave me the meeting. Later on, confessed to me, he's like, I was so nervous when I said yes, because I swear I thought you were going to talk to me about some MLM. Because I told me I have this interesting opportunity, I want to talk to you.
That's what it's
And so he's like, well, I'm really glad I took this meeting, and it makes sense to me, and whatever. And so next thing I know, he's within a few months, he's wired in over $500,000 into some projects. It was a very humbling experience. So that's just a little bit about kind of how I got started. The whole fund thing that you may have heard, you've heard about crowdfunding and creating a fund. There's a lot of people that talk about that, and in most cases it doesn't make sense. It didn't make sense for us until this year because, one, creating a SEC registered fund is very expensive, especially depending on the type of offering that you are putting together. So the other thing is you have to be able to make it profitable, right? You're offering a certain rate of return to the investors who are going to be investing in the fund. But if you don't have the infrastructure and the deal flow and everything to put inside the fund to be able to generate those returns, then you're going to fail, and many of them do. So it took us all these many years to get to a point to where, now we're acquiring 10 to 15 properties a month, selling somewhere around 6 to 10 properties a month. And so we have the infrastructure, and now we're going to split that business off into a different entity called Steadfast Capital, specifically for that. Because I was having this recurring thing in my head. I was working out one day, which is where I come up with probably 90% of my ideas. I think it has something to do with the oxygen. But I was hearing this thing like, focus on getting free first, then focus on getting rich. And I realized that in the product that we're selling, we're helping a lot of other people get free, right? And we're always chasing after that next deal. Just like in flips, retail flips, you're always chasing after that next deal. Because we're selling most of our properties, we're still always chasing after the next deal. So how can we grow a portfolio to where we can get free, and then, amazingly, getting rich is easier once you're free. It's ironic kind of how that works, right? So how can we do it? I approached, I have one existing business partner, and I had another quote-unquote partner in Kansas City who obviously runs all my stuff, right? He does the acquisitions, he does the management, he does everything, because you have to have, especially when you do things remotely, you have to have somebody that can do that and that you can trust. So how do you increase that level of trust even beyond where you're already at? Well, I decided to bring this to him, and now we created an entity and became a partner. Because I knew that they were already servicing a different hedge fund, and they were having to deploy a certain amount of money every month. And I simply presented it in a way, again, what's in it for him, right? Well, why go and service this other fund and meet their guidelines and do all their criteria and everything else and have the stress of deploying a certain amount of capital for them? Why don't we create our own fund, grow our own portfolio, and there'd be, we could split it 3 ways essentially. And so the idea is raise $5 million and grow that to about $6 million, and then hold about 170 to 180 properties within the fund. That's how you capitalize the investor's return. Eventually you cash out the investor, refinance at a lower rate. eventually you have more and more properties paid off, and then there's your freedom. So at the 130, 150 properties, that would be, if everything goes according to plan, of course, based off of the numbers that we've already produced, then that's a conservative 10 grand a month for every member of this partnership. So that's kind of our freedom fund, right? And then you can just kind of grow from there.
Not that you would, but it's a possibility that if we had some people here that were doing wholesaling Sky Mountain properties and they found something that you'd be interested in, you might entertain the thought of purchasing that.
We're always buying houses.
Right, so what I'm saying is, everything that I was saying is really big and really complicated to anybody to start it.
Sure.
We'd love to get to that point. But you're in a situation now where you can actually find properties both locally and remotely, and Ivan would be a person that would be interested in those properties if it came in at the right price.
Yeah. And we can talk about that. And the other thing that I do with people is, a lot of times, people can find money, but they can't find a deal to put it to. So what happens when you can't find that deal? Well, the money goes somewhere else. So we also pay for referrals to both properties and to money. So if you have an investor that says, hey, I'm excited, I'm interested in doing what you're gonna do, we can pay a fee. I don't know how Dan does it, but even for the fund, we're allowed to pay a one-time finder's fee. It just can't be contingent on the amount of capital raised, but we can pay a fee. And that's what I used to do too. In the beginning, again, I had a lot of money, and I had some deals, but not enough deals. So I would find people with deals, and then I called myself a relationships manager, right? I would bring this money that I had and that I knew I needed to put into play, and then I would connect with people, and it's amazing when you have the money, how many times people say yes to you. So it's like, how about we do this? Well, what are you gonna, I'm gonna bring all the money. So, okay. So then I didn't want to rehab, I didn't want to manage the project, I didn't want to do any of that kind of stuff. I was just like, here's the money, and I'm going to collect a fee up front that's going to come out of this money, and then it was good for me because I'd get paid right away. I didn't have to wait 4, 5, 6 months for them to flip that property. So it's all about how you creatively structure things. And then I got out of that because then I had deals and I had different things, and then I ran into that mess in MD, and I did a bunch of different other things along the way. Sounds like you're doing some similar to owner finance deals, aren't you?
We've done that too. Yeah, owner finance, private lenders, we're doing a number of different things. Now, you said you live in, was it Camarillo? Camarillo? Is there anything that you do locally in Camarillo or this area in Southern California? So it's there, so if people are looking for something to pass your way, it's gotta be Kansas City.
Yeah. Now, if you're coming up with, if you have a good wholesale deal, I have a couple of buddies that flip a lot of houses in California. They're interested in the higher end stuff, 500,000 and above, usually. And Victor, you have that big deal in San Francisco.
Yeah.
We have a big deal in Las Vegas, the Tournament Hills golf course community. It's a very interesting deal. We almost had it. So this is a deal that we're wholesaling. It's a 19,000 square foot mansion, and there's nothing wrong with it. It's just that the prior owner was very eccentric and flamboyant, and a lot of things need to be changed. So this is a very there's also a very creative and interesting exit strategy. Okay, so this is a foreign buyer strategy. This is somebody who's going to come in, more like a Chinese buyer that wants a place to come in and entertain. So we have it under contract for $5.35 million. It's going to take about $1 million in renovations and upgrades, and latest comp was about $12 million. So they'll sell anywhere between $8 to $12 million. So it's a big deal. We had somebody look at it. We had their architects. Everything was good, and they finally decided that it's just they know it's going to take a long time. Okay, projects like that take a long time. They don't sell in 30 days, even once they're done. Victor.
So how did you get that number to 12 million?
That was the latest comp.
Yeah, it's based off of recently homes sold in that area.
Yeah.
And what would you compare to like square foot rooms and all that?
The $12 million property was 3,500 square feet smaller.
Okay, so
It's a big
it's
property.
pretty strong.
Yeah, it's pretty strong.
And you still have the property under
Still have
contract?
it under contract.
Okay.
So 8 to 12, Again, we have it all scoped out, all the architect recommendations and everything else. It's just they didn't want to be tied into it for 2 years. That's what it's going to take. It's going to take probably 9-10 months of rehab work, and it'll probably take 9-10 months to sell it.
Yeah, maybe we can do something with
Yeah,
that.
but it's about a $2 million profit on the back end.
Okay.
It's a strong wholesale deal, so if anybody has people that are interested in those types of projects, there's plenty of extra money in that wholesale fee to spread around.
Yeah, I'm also wholesaling 2 properties in Kansas City too.
Okay,
We can talk about that later.
are they distressed or turnkey?
One of them is missing a kitchen sink, the tenant took it.
Okay,
First time heard that. 2-bedroom, 1 bath, going for about 14,000. The other one, it's pretty much turnkey. The people just need to get out, move on to the next project, and that one's going for about 19.
okay. Depends on where they're at, of course. One, we pretty much never buy occupied properties.
Vacant.
Yeah, we always buy them vacant and pretty much always distressed. The reason we don't buy turnkey properties from somebody else is because we don't like taking over somebody else's problem. So typically, even our management company doesn't manage for outside land or investors. So if we source them, we rehab them to our standards, we screen the tenants to our standards, and then we manage those properties. If there's a property that's currently occupied, but the tenant could be taken out, then we could do that, if the numbers were right. And are they, what part of Kansas City are they in?
They're south of Kansas City. Check it out.
Well, you can send me some info on them. I'll take a look at
Send
it.
you an email
Yeah.
about the proposal.
Okay, yeah, I'll take a look at them, and the cool thing about this property and the way we got it in Vegas is, my partner lives out there in Henderson, and he just so happens that the attorney handling the estate is his attorney, and the realtor handling the listing is his buddy, so we have that property under lock. It's just, it's a tough one to wholesale, just because it's very,
How long have you had it under contract for?
3 months.
3 months, all right. So how much longer do you have it?
We have an automatic extension every 30 days.
Oh, that's awesome. Okay,
Relationships.
that's right.
And then, of course, you know, after the second month, we put down a $50,000 earnest money. So that's the other thing, when you deal in these big properties, the earnest money's a little bit more than $10.
So, a little more than $10, especially when you lock it in.
Not that there's anything wrong with that.
What do you do as far as marketing something like that for a buyer? How do you go about that? You just leave that to the realtor, or what do you do there?
Well, because we're not the ones actually doing the deal, we're just wholesaling the deal. That's why it takes somebody that works in that space. That high-end flip market is not really the space that we're in, so we don't, but the realtor ultimately can sell something like that.
They're responsible.
And then the person who does those flips and searches those types of properties out have their network of buyers who look for that kind of stuff.
Gotcha.
Many of them are Chinese buyers who come in and usually pay cash for those types of properties. We're looking at, to actually do a flip, I've raised $3 million for a flip in Corona Del Mar. That, you know, came down to the 11th hour, and then they decided to only need $2 million. So there was no way for me to get a $1 million second lien position loan. And so we walked away from it. But that's ultimately, the realtor that we were working with has an assistant, they had to get an assistant that speaks Mandarin, because most of her buyers are foreign buyers from China that come in, buy cash. And this is, for those of you who don't know, if those types of buyers come in and they invest 7 figures or more in this country, they almost automatically get like a visa. So it's one of the ways that they're encouraging people to bring money into this economy by giving them visas.
And they would typically have some kind of entity already set up in the United States to be able to do that transaction?
Sometimes. I mean, it's not, it's gonna be their residence, so either a second residence, vacation rental, or even their primary, once if they live here, you know, a year at a time, and they go back. So they can buy however they want to buy it. Usually they're buying the personal name.
First.
foresee a situation where a wholesaler would share some type of insurance?
Part of the problem, if you're actually door knocking and, you know, driving for dollars and going on properties and stuff like that, is that if you happen to cause any damages to either bodily injury to somebody else, or there's always that chance that you could run into an issue, like why were you there? What were you doing? But for the most part, if all you're doing is assigning contracts, I don't think there's a reason for a wholesaler to carry insurance.
What about anything relating to negligence?
Negligence how?
Well, for instance.
You don't disclose something,
Yeah.
well, were you the actual owner that had inspections done and that you knew certain things that you withheld?
No, but I
Most
would be
cases
a,
not.
I would be a principal for a little short time being. If I were to assign a contract to a buyer, would they have any, form of,
What do you have in your contracts typically? Don't you typically say something as is, where it is? Yeah, so you're disclosing everything as far as you're concerned, as far as you know, and they're accepting everything as far as they see it and as far as they know it. So I think your liability is very, very small as long as you have those things in your contract. That's it. Who wants to go get some sun?
Great job, Ivan. Excellent, thank you very much.
Thank you guys for putting up with me.
We'll have it on video, Michael's got it, so, you look at that one, what did they say, how'd that go?
You know, one thing I'll recommend to you guys is I've seen some of your videos online.
Okay,
Get
speaker.
a
mic?
wireless lapel.
Okay.
It plugs right into the mic in your camera, and you capture that.
Yeah, the sound would be better.
Yeah, way better and way more enjoyable for people to listen to the video.
Instead of the people passing through the hallway. Thank you very much, we will be back here next month on the 20th, Saturday, then by August, the big event, from 9 in the morning till about 5 in the afternoon.
I'll be here too.
You'll be here?
Yep. Actually, not only will I be here, I'm gonna be raffling off a 50% off ticket to our Global Hawaii Conference in March of 2016. So you wanna be here.
Oh, wow.
Good. Very much, good job.
That could be a write-off.